That one I built in 1986 after the NRM came in. To build that before that, it was very difficult.
But you used to stay in this one?
This one?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So, Honorable Kyemba, nice meeting you and finding you in your home. This lovely place with the nice trees and of course it brings a lot of memories.
It does. Thank you, Bart, for coming.
So when did you start your career and what were your specialization at school?
I joined the civil service in 1962 after graduating from Makerere with an honors degree in history. And I chose to join the civil service rather than go to the private sector, which was paying more money. But I thought I would go to the central government, civil service, and I was interviewed. It was the only application I made in my life to join government, to join civil service, because I never, after that, ever applied for another job. The civil service gave you the exposure. It was a training ground, and in my view, I thought you could start there, get to know people, and then go into the private sector. The private sector, BAT, oil companies, we are paying the Samo Dakas and the other people of that age much more money, and it was attractive. So, but I made a decision that I would start in the civil service. I joined the civil service with people like Paul Etiang, Sam Baingana. These are the people I was...
So you entered at what level after as a university graduate?
As a university graduate, you could join as a district officer cadet, district commissioner cadet, you can say it. And you would rise through the ranks. When you are a district officer, you are given a scale, which was then about 700 pounds per annum. It used to be a salary of about 1,500 shillings a month for a district officer.
And your first posting was?
Normally, district officers were posted up country. And when I was asked by then P.S. Allen, the Permanent Secretary Office of the Prime Minister, I was asked where I wanted to be posted. My first choice was Kabale.
Why Kabale?
I had been there. It had a beautiful climate, and I had many friends who had studied at College Mwiri from Kabale and the West. Many of them are still very good friends of mine. That connection has had a lot of part to play in my life. But as it happened, the head of civil service didn't post me to Kabale or Mbale or Fort Portal. They posted me to the Prime Minister's office, so as Assistant Secretary in charge of protocol and general duties.
Was that a better posting compared to the district level?
Yes, it was supposed to. It would be a promotion to move from the district to the Assistant Secretary level, because we would have had experience in the field. It was a great pleasure for me to be posted to Entebbe, but my colleagues like Paul Etiang were sent to Gulu, others were sent to Mbale, and so on. Faris Mutibwa joined Foreign Service and went for training in France. So that's what happened. My elder brother, the late Davis Nabeta, was a minister in the colonial government, and a member of the Legislative Council as well. I used to rub shoulders with people that were much older than myself while I was accompanying him to Parliament, to various functions as a minister and so on.
So, in spite of your age, you say you are very young. What stopped you from getting very involved into active politics?
My brother, elder brother whom I've mentioned, David Nabeta, was a member of DP, and was in late Benedicto Kwanteka's government, but later he pulled out and became independent. I was of the view, even that early, that two brothers in the political limelight is a bit too much. One is enough. We're only 7 brothers, and I thought I should not be active in politics. I should take a different line. Then the other one was that civil servants were not allowed to be active in politics.
Yeah.
And I knew the leaders then. The late Milton Obote was from Mwiri as well, and a number of friends of mine were active in the UPC. And I thought if I joined the political party, then I would not be able to join the civil service, which had been my ambition.
The Busoga Kingdom, where you hail from, had been given the post of a vice president, and I believe that Nadiope was very, very involved into the politics. So that I thought would have dragged you into the 1959, 57, 61 events that were very volatile, especially with the Buganda.
I knew the late Nadiope very well because my mother comes from Kamoli. So I used to interact with them. I would have been in politics 100 times, but I think this is a reflection of my own self. If somebody can do the job, let him do it. And I thought they were doing it much better. After a few years as Assistant Secretary in the Prime Minister's office, I was appointed Private Secretary to Milton Obote, the Prime Minister. And of course then my attitude, my schedule changed. But at the time of, it was expected that a job like Private Secretary of the President is just a tour of duty, because for about 2 years, and then you go back to the civil service, ordinary civil service, but it was found that once your boss got confidence in you and got to know how he wants things done, it became necessary to stay on longer. So in the end, it turned out that although I was basically in the civil service, I was on the personal staff of State House, and I was given the guarantee that whenever they were promoting people of my group, I would also be considered. That's how I got promoted in the ranks right up to the top eventually. But it gives you, of course, an opportunity to be close to the very things which were happening right from independence. Go through the election of Africanization of the head of state and the vice president taking over, and then of course the political situation that came up during that time up to 1966. It's a very exciting time.
I am surprised that you haven't been at the center of the activities. You're actually very close to seeing how power is maintained and got, and all the glamours, all the beauty about power. You still remain the modest man, and you didn't want to aspire to be president. Like, look at Benaisa, look at all those people who worked. Even Museveni worked under Obote. So,
well, that is an interesting question, but if you are a private secretary in that area of operation, first, you are so exposed to the dangers and also the benefits of being close. Most of the outsiders see the benefits. They see you flying first class. They say don't say anything. Just put your ear near my mouth, and somebody says you are very powerful. To be head of government and head of state is a very, very tedious exercise. It is a sacrifice that I was not prepared to undertake.
Yeah, you had actually seen it.
I've seen it at close quarters. I've survived the bullets meant for my boss, and occupational hazards, as they say, and I thought that's good enough. But the other thing is, I've had the time to advise the powers that be from very close quarters. Why should I want to be there?
That's a good observation.
I've had the opportunity. I thank God for it. One thing I would say, advise honestly. Advise honestly. Civil service then gave me the opportunity. You could tell your boss that this is the way it's supposed to be done. But if you want to change it, you can either change it legally through the parliament or through other administrative. But this is the right way to do it.
The attempted assassination on Milton Obote. You said you have actually survived.
Which one?
1969.
In December.
1969. How did it happen? Would you please enlighten us exactly what happened? Not who did, but I just want to know what the events.
I was there in 1969 at Lugogo when the assassination attempt on Obote was made. I was walking with him from the conference at the conclusion of the conference towards the exit and to our cars. Just as we got out, a shot rang out. Immediately we pushed the president down to the floor. We didn't know at that time that they had also thrown a grenade which didn't explode. But eventually one of the bodyguards pulled the president to the nearest car that was available to rush him out of danger, which they did. There were attempts to pick up people who were supposed to have done it, but there's no time for me in any case to stay around. I just said arrest anybody suspected, and I actually jumped in the vice president's car, Babika's car, at the time, to chase the president's car, which was heading to the hospital. I actually went in the vice president's car. I don't know how he got out of the place himself, but the president got in another one, and we raced to the hospital. That's where, of course, we found that he had been shot through the mouth, and they took care of that. And it was actually there that the nurse also asked me. He said, I didn't know that. What is this blood on your shirt? And I realized I had the bullet had grazed my neck, and I had a bit of blood on my neck. So that was the first attempt on Obote. There was another one as we left Port Bell, prisoners department, one night.
How long ago was that?
That was about June 1970. I can't remember the actual date. But we were coming in a convoy from Luzira prison. Just it was about 8, 9, or 9. I can't remember that time. Just as we were leaving, Again, just telepathy told me that tell the, we use our internal communication. They say tell the police car to switch off those lights. I don't know why. Only God told me to do that. I told the escort to switch off their flashlight. And we left. We came towards Kampala. We were going to Entebbe. The vice president was coming behind us with his lights, with his flashlight blaring away. When we got near Silver Springs Hotel, we passed an event and we continued on towards Entebbe. But when late Babiha came behind us, there was shots rang out and they hit his car. Around the Kajansi, we are told by the radio network that the vice president had been shot at Silver Spring Hotel near, and is at the Central Police Station. We sped from that place to Entebbe at breakneck speed to State House, Entebbe.
So did the president know immediately there, or you just did it yourself?
No. Immediately we had to tell everybody to speed up.
But the president knew that there was an attempt on his life?
He knew. We knew that they had not intended for the vice president. Yes. They must have intended for the big fish. Later on, when they arrested the people who were part of the plot, they said they saw a convoy which first passed, and they said no, there is one coming behind with the flashlight, and that's what they eventually targeted. So those were two incidents that I can verify on what actually happened. Although there is, of course, the other one, the suspected attempt in Moyo, when we were in Moyo and Arua, when he was suspected to be picked up or something. So when you ask me whether I want to be president, I think, but I would say better you go have a go at it yourself.
You said you were in Singapore with Obote when he was overthrown.
That's right.
Can you explain how the news was broken to him and what the reaction was?
No, when the news came, it came through when we were still in Singapore. I think friends telephoned the president and told him that things are not going well. In fact, the late Bataringaya was, I think, supposed is believed to have been killed because he telephoned Obote told him so. But even before he did that, the late Chris Intend, who was permanent secretary in Internal Affairs, came. And because there was no room in the hotel, he stayed with me in my room. It was not possible to get a room for him. And later, we left my room to go and have a word with the president on whatever security matter he had to deal with him. So by the morning of our departure from Singapore, the president called everybody and told us that things were a bit rough in Kampala. So we went to the airport and took off, basically for Delhi and for Nairobi. Unfortunately, as you will remember, as we were airborne, the BBC was the only source of information. The news came that Obote had been overthrown. So I went back to the compartment to relay the news to him. I said, Mr. President, you have Amin has taken over. And we took it from there with everybody on board.
And you flew to Nairobi?
We flew to Bombay first. And at that time, President Nyerere, late President Nyerere, was on a state visit to India and was in New Delhi. But we were in Bombay. They had a chat with him. The plane was supposed to go from Bombay to Pakistan, to Rawalpindi, or to Karachi. We were supposed to go to Karachi after Bombay and then to Nairobi. But because of the urgency of the situation developing at home, later but directed that the plane goes straight to Nairobi, which we did. Others said he hijacked the plane, but he did.
Which plane was that?
It was East African Air.
Okay, so there were other passengers on board?
The other passengers who were going to Pakistan, to Karachi, but they were dropped out. But was keen to get to Nairobi as soon as possible. Kenyatta wasn't very keen about intervening on his behalf. But having spoken to Nyerere and being a member of the Mulungushi Club, Nyerere was very happy to host him in Dar es Salaam. So we stayed in Nairobi only one night. And the following morning, all of us, even those who didn't want to go, had to fly to Dar es Salaam, where the reception was very different. And he was well received by then Deputy Vice President Rashid Kawawa. So we stayed there for a few days to try and find out whether we would stay or they would come back. And that's when Amin, having saved himself, was able to tell everybody that anyone who wanted to come was free to return to Uganda. And I took the opportunity to come back, knowing fully well that I was going to retire back home here, where we are seated, only to get to Kampala and the directions otherwise. He says, go back to the same office, gave me a car, and to take me home, and that kind of thing.
You must be a brave man, because landing at Entebbe Airport, what was reading through your head at that time? That you'd be
that is the very interesting thing also. I came back with some bodyguards of the president who were allowed to carry pistols even internationally. Unfortunately, one of them is dead, the late Ojulong. They had decided to come back to Uganda with me, but they were scared of coming with the pistols. They did ask me what to do with the pistols, and they wanted to dump them in the dustbins in Dar es Salaam. I said, no, don't. These are personal firearms. Don't leave them behind. Carry them with you back to Entebbe. Otherwise, you'll be accused of arming the opposition forces. Now, when we got near Entebbe, I had a problem. They were too scared to get out of the plane with those firearms. And they said, what do we do? I said, don't worry. You give them to me. They handed them those pistols. And I came out of the plane with them. And I took the opportunity to hand them over to one of the officers whom Amin had sent to pick me up.
And you are all free? They drove you?
I was completely free. All of them were completely free. And I handed them over to the security officers because I had nothing to hide. I was definitely not bringing those firearms to start a battle.
How were you given a ministerial post then?
Oh, that was the following year, 1972. I was on my way to Entebbe. I was in the Ministry of Culture then and Community Development. We had a graduation ceremony at Nsamizi for community officers with people from up country. And on the way around Kajansi, I heard on the radio that the Minister Yakoswati Ngu had been fired with immediate effect. I had prepared the speech for him for the function, but now he was no more going to attend. So when I got to Entebbe, everybody was wondering what was going to happen. I rang up the president's office and asked, we've got a function here. What do we do? And they said, we can't give you an answer, we don't know. So I said, can I speak to the president, find out? He said, he's not here, but we'll call you. So we waited at the graduation ceremony for a short while. While I was at the table, they called me out to go and answer telephone. And who was it? It was the head of state. We said, Kyemba, where are you? I said, I'm at Amin. I don't know what to do because we've got a graduation ceremony here. And the minister has been fired. He said, no, you are the minister of culture. So that is how I took over the ministry
of culture.
Right at a graduation ceremony. But since I had prepared the speech for the minister, I was able to preside and we continued.
And people actually knew that you are a minister there?
Oh, first of all, when they called me out, they knew that the minister had been fired. And during those Amin days, when they call you out, it is a lot of foreboding. And they thought something was going to happen. But when they saw me walk back, escorted by the policeman there, they gave me a big cheer. And of course I told them that this has happened and I've been asked to hold the fort.
So you stayed minister?
So that's how I started my ministerial post in Amin's government. Now, again, it looks so accidental. And the same happened, maybe not the same, it wasn't exactly the same, when I was appointed the following year, at the end of the following year, to be Minister of Health.
At the time of the post-independence, the first few years, the civil service, you were able to advise politicians and say, this is the way things are done and this is what. So here you are, you eventually end up working closely with Idi Amin as a Minister of Health. And the Minister of Health, you are supposed to advise the President and say this. So how difficult was it to work under Idi Amin, having worked through a democratic institution that had been set up after independence, and here you are in a dictatorship where there are decrees that are supposed to be followed?
I had a very big problem with the Minister of Health to keep the things working. Doctors were running away. I was advising some doctors to go away because I knew if they're in danger, it would be better for them to save themselves outside than to stay here and be killed. Some were killed, unfortunately. After the death of the murder of the Archbishop, Janan Luwum, Erinayo Oriema, and Ogoto Fumbi, I thought the time had come for me to leave. I was assisted by my late mother. These people were killed when she was with me in Kampala, staying with me on Chadondo Road near the British Embassy. And I was very much involved in the stories that were being taken, carried on the media, that I had confirmed they had been killed in a motor accident. You were saying, you ask Kyemba, he will tell you how they've died. And I could not stomach it. My mother, in fact, said, my son, I don't want to see you. I want to see you out of the country. Going into exile was one of those most humiliating things I ever thought about. Because they look at you, they asked me many questions when I was in. They said, but how many people are in Uganda? The black Americans asked me when I was on a lecture circuit in US. They said, how many people are in Uganda? And I thought you were asking me a funny question. I said, about 10 million people. They said, 10 million people, you can't get any people to deal with Amin, who is doing these things? And I couldn't explain it. They said, how could you allow a nation to be on your knees when a brute like that one is hammering away.
People like you who served under Idi Amin helped a lot, saved a lot of lives. Let's look at it. What do you think you contributed to? I'm just preempting the question, but I believe that's the truth, no doubt about it.
Well, it is very difficult to talk about myself as such. You only need to talk about, let other people speak, for example, for me. But I know, for example, when I was Minister of Health, there are several doctors I made sure went away for training so that they can be saved here. Professor Batambuzi, the head heart surgeon, who is now at Nakasero Hospital, was one of those I managed to get to the States. The Roy Mugerwas, the Sam Okwares went to America to pursue studies, basically, during my time. My own family, many of my friends and family members, because it was, of course, dangerous to be seen to be assisting anybody to go out, because you would be immediately called a saboteur. But I know my family, for example, now, I'm one of the most detribalized, decontinentalized person you can talk of. My family is in Canada, my others in the US, Italy, even in Japan. I can tell you how many people I got into my car because I was known and drove them across Malaba in my car without them being asked to get out. And yet they had been battered in Machindi prison.
One of the remarkable things that I think you did was writing The State of Blood. No. Tell me about The State of Blood, the story, the book.
Well, when I left here, I was under serious security considerations. Would my family be targeted? If I said anything, would raise more problems. Then, until I came to the conclusion that even if I kept quiet, there's no guarantee that my people would be safe. And that even if I said, but if I said something, I'll become more public, and Amin would find it very difficult. Everything that concerns me would be public knowledge. So as a result of contacts I had with some people at the Sunday Times and Harold Evans and some friends from Ireland, I said, let me go public. That's how I went public with the interviews, and then eventually with the book. I said I would write a book because I knew Amin had guns, but he didn't have a pen to respond to mine. So that was one way I did it. I distributed it to the United Nations, even gave a copy to Amin's ambassador to the UN, and it was more difficult for him to deny that these things were happening. That was the problem for him, because I said, no, we've got the facts. I was more useful to the country alive than if he had killed me here. That was the only reason, main reason.
Yeah, but it is such a detailed book that were you able to keep memoirs when you were even under it? How did you keep all that information?
It was very difficult to send out anything. If somebody is caught with it. So all I did was to carry what I considered myself. And then I've got quite a bit. I'm still in the writing spirit. I want to certainly do 2 other books, which I've always wished to do, in the corridors of power, because that's where I have been. I've been privileged to serve the President of Uganda today as the Prime Minister in his own office. I've served on various commissions, including the Judicial Service Commission for the appointment and disciplining of judges, and many other respectable undertaking that he has given me to do. I'm of course active in Rotary, non-service organization.
You've been a district governor.
I've been a district governor, the third Ugandan district governor. I'm now their representative to the United Nations Environment Program for nearly 10 years. And it makes me proud that Uganda is playing an important role. I'm playing an important role in Uganda's development.
How many copies did you sell of that State of Blood?
You might as well ask me. Because originally when I did the book, it was not for monetary purposes. I just wanted to reach the international community. And it was translated into 19 languages, but all to try and reach out to the world, to the public. And it is still selling. It's still selling. But I want to update it with the corridors of power. And I had originally wanted the state of hope to give a positive side to what is happening. State of hope. Those are the two things. The University of Leiden has been interested in my doing one of those. And I hope, thank God, if I have the lifespan, I hope to be able to do it. And the money.
To publish it. Yeah,
that's right. No, I just want, even if I don't publish it, I want to leave it in print, on the laptop and written. Because I'm doing these things for the benefit of Uganda, for them to know that I never died with this information and written. It would be good if I can get them published when I'm alive, but I want them to be on record. And I keep my things on record. When the bats come around, all you need is to go to my computer and my flashes, and you get all this information I've told you. There is nothing, as far as I'm concerned, there is very little I have not recorded. But I want to get it into book form, because we go through many challenges, family and what have you.
Thank you very, very much, Honorable Kyemba. Thanks.